welcome to Commit to Change, otherwise known as the C2C podcast. I am your host, Miss Nikki. I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited that you could join me for this new season. There have been so many new changes to the show, to our location. I'm so excited to share with you. We are now located in Colorado. It is absolutely gorgeous out here. The people have been nothing but kind and nice, and I feel like we might stay here a little while, but you never know what the universe has in store. So you can't put it past you can't put it past it. As you may or may have noticed, we have changed our theme song, which my wonderful daughter created for me, so that we can have a little unique sound. So I'm excited about that as well. So as always, this podcast is a place to give a voice to people who are considered a small fry in their industry, but are doing big things in their communities. And again, I am Miss Nikki, the Jane of all trades, but the master of living. And I am dedicated to introducing VIPs, which are vivaciously inspiring people to encourage you on your journey, as well as kind of let you know what is happening in your area. Please stay tuned for the Self-Lift Network. Keep watching our channel. It will continue to grow. We are finally being able to embark on the initial vision, which I saw for the channel, for the website, for the dream of what is to come with the Self-Lift Network. So please keep in mind that Commit to Change podcast is a part of this network, and we're going to continue to grow. And it's really about teaching people to find balance between health, wealth, and self. Okay, enough about that. Let's get into today's episode. I am super excited to introduce to you a wonderful woman who actually came into my inbox asking to be on the show. And after having a conversation with her, it has just been, it was just really astounding, just the journey that she went on to get to her next step, which is being an author. So let me give you a little background about her. She is an inspirational speaker, a mother, and a wife. She knows all about living through challenging times. Like I said, she shared that with me on our interview. She shares her incredible story in her first book, Bravery, Our Journey of Faith, Hope, and Love, which follows the birth of her son, Avery, born with a critical heart defect, and her beautiful daughter, Jessie, diagnosed with autism. So she's had to deal with a couple of hiccups in her life, but her energy and her outlook on life is just absolutely amazing. She did not let that stop her from moving forward or from sharing her story with all of us. Her experience has inspired a purpose to provide the ability to not only rise above adversity, but to find renewed faith and fortitude. Kim provides advice and tools for people to face their fears, have faith in themselves, feel the confidence to take the first step to accomplishing their goals. Now, besides her book, Bravery, Our Journey of Faith, Hope, and Love, which is a human interest story captivating hearts, she has graced us with one more of her inspirational stories in her book, Smile Again. It was just released. I believe it was like 2 months ago. It was just released. So make sure you keep an eye out on that as well. And she's going to tell you more about that when you listen to the interview. Her story sends a message of humble gratefulness, accompanied with the power to rise above adversity with a newfound strength. Kim loves helping people learn that great things can come from adversity, bigger, better than could have been imagined. Again, welcome to the Commit to Change podcast, and stay tuned for the wonderful interview with Miss Kim Gemmell from Canada. All right. Hi, Miss Kim. Thank you so much for joining us on the C2C podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really great, thanks. It's a nice day here in BC, British Columbia, Canada.
So I just want to talk a little bit about you. Just tell our audience first what you do, like why you're here with us today. And then I want to go into some like fun facts to know a little bit more about Kim, get on the personal side of who you are.
Sure. Okay, good stuff. Well, I am an author and I wrote my second book during COVID because I had time. I'd always wanted to, I had even the title, it's called Smile Again. And I had that title in my head for a few years now and I knew what I wanted to write about. And then, but time, right, with work and kids and life gets in the way. And then COVID came and then lockdown, I wasn't able to go anywhere, do anything. So I said, this is the time to write my book. So I sat down in front of the computer every morning for a few hours, and within about 4 months, it was finished, and I was able to find a publisher in Colorado that took me on and published me. And so it's been out now since middle of January, and so it's fairly new, but it's gaining momentum and speed, and I'm getting messages from everybody saying that it came at really a really good time in your life because, well, the title kind of explains a little bit about it, being called Smile Again. So it's all about finding the silver linings, finding antidotes to prosper through challenging times, through the challenges and adversity I've been through in my own life. I was able to turn that into a purpose to help others through challenging times. So that's kind of what it's about. Just as it's a nice, easy, light read. It's entertaining. I talk about other people who I know who've survived and gone through great adversity to do some wonderful things. So it's kind of inspiring. I would probably say if you were to take a little bit of chicken soup for the soul with a spin of turn your wounds into wisdom. It's kind of what
Okay.
that would be, if that makes sense.
So now, obviously, this is not your first book. So
Right.
tell us a little bit about like first of all, what brought you to become an author? What was your first book? Give us a little insight about that as well.
Sure. Yes. Thanks. Well, my first book was published 9 years ago now, and it's called Bravery: Our Journey of Faith, Hope, and Love. I found a copy here because I'm going to be relaunching it. But yeah, I was not supposed to be an author. That was if somebody had told me you're going to write a book, Kim, and then another book, and then you're going to do public speaking, and I'd be like, no, you've got the wrong person. But I was inspired to write Bravery following the birth of my son, who was born with a critical heart defect and not expected to live. And I had a 3-year-old daughter at the time, Jessie. But my husband and I were taken away from her because we were by Avery's side in the hospital in ICU for nearly 5 months. So my mom and dad were looking after Jessie. And in that period of 5 months where Avery was fighting for his life and would undergo 4 heart surgeries altogether, including open heart, in the midst of all that, our little daughter Jessie got diagnosed with autism. And my dad suddenly died at home of a heart attack after Avery was only 3.5 weeks old. So this perfect little life of mine came spiraling down very quickly. And I thought I was the biggest wimp because I lived this kind of picket fence lifestyle up until then. And we don't realize how strong we are until strong is the only thing we have a choice to be. So we went through a lot of stress during those months, but at the end of the day, I made a promise to myself and to God that if Avery lives, I will be the happiest mom in the world. And miraculously, Avery did live. 5 months after he was born, we were able to bring him home with his heart all patched up. He was in pretty rough shape, and he'd gone through so much, but it was a miracle that he lived. And now, 23 years later, his birthday is on Saturday. He'll be 23. I still hold true the promise that I am the happiest mom on earth. And people would say to me after we came home, and my daughter, by the way, she's 26 and doing wonderful as well. She's just a ray of sunshine. But after we came home from the hospital with Avery, all this had happened, and people were saying, "Oh, you poor thing, you've been through so much adversity, so much struggle." Like, oh, they were feeling sorry for me, and I just didn't understand because I was so happy. Avery lived, and over 5 months being in ICU, we saw a lot of babies that unfortunately didn't get to go home, and a lot of parents leave without their babies because the average ICU stay is only 2 to 3 days, not 5 months like we had. So I felt extremely blessed. And I thought, I've got to write a book about this, about why I'm so grateful and why I'm so blessed, and help people going through adversity understand that life can be wonderful, even if it doesn't go as we expected or planned. But then I'm thinking, I'm not smart enough to write a book. My English professor in university thought I was a waste of desk space. And when we're young, we're really impressionable. We tend to believe what the professionals and adults say. So I would brush it off, the notion to write the book, but it wouldn't leave. So I finally one day, many years later, said, "Okay, I've got to write this book." And it was very cathartic for me, and one of the best things I did because I reached a lot of people who were able to understand that it's not what we go through, it's how we deal with it after we go through it. And so to be able to show how we can have gratitude and appreciation and things for life, even though it isn't wonderful, was kind of became my purpose. And so that's when I wrote Bravery, and it did really well, and it made me feel good to be able to turn my experience into a purpose. And then 9 years later, Smile Again came, and that was inspired because of all I learned since Bravery. I thought now I've got even more tools because Avery's 23 now, and I wanted to kind of give an update of how he's doing in his life because uh, you wonder, everything happens for a reason, and he was just meant to live because he graduated with honors, and he won the Nelson Mandela Hardest Working Student Award, and he's
Wow.
in university now. Yeah. So and Jessie is the most loveliest young woman who has this unconditional love. She spends her life giving to others. She works at the Salvation Army. She delivers Meals on Wheels to the disabled and special needs, walks dogs, makes necklaces for charity. So you just, it you can't define your life like you don't plan on having a baby that's born with a critical heart defect or
Right.
a child that's going to be diagnosed with autism, and you think that wow, the world doesn't prepare you for that kind of stuff, and so but it's out there and it's happening, and I just wanted to show people how it can be, you can embrace it, and I wouldn't change it for the thing anything because I wouldn't be here with you today if my experience hadn't happened. I wouldn't have never wrote a book, and or done a TED talk, things like that. So you just got to look at things that way, and the blessings that adversity can bring you. And so my newest book, Smile Again, which my lovely friend painted the cover for. So it's like a flower growing through the crack.
Oh,
So that
wow.
beauty can come from places, dark places we don't expect it to come from. So it's all about that, like just finding the silver linings, and it's never too late. I talk about that a lot too because I have a friend who I inspired to write her book, and she's 79, and another friend who's 84 and still plays baseball. So I just like to be able to show people that they are capable, they have the ability. If I can do it, anybody can.
Absolutely. So that's real commendable that you were able to overcome adversity, and then you had the drive to say, "I want to put this on paper. I want to be an example. I want to be an inspiration to others." It's commendable and just admirable to see that you were able to come from some place that would have been um, probably would have broken some people or really had them in a dark place, and you were able to see, like, at the end, I have my child, I have, the joy of bringing them home, and of course that's what I'm going to look at. I'm not going to look at the struggle, that took me there, but I'm going to look at the fact that I'm bringing this baby home. It's kind of like when when you go through pregnancy and you have all those pains of the contractions and everything, and it's the most horrible experience, but you forget about all of
Right.
that
You do.
once that baby comes out, right?
Otherwise, no one would have more than one.
Right, exactly, exactly. And so that's what it kind of reminds me of, is that, those were the pains of birth. And I feel like that was kind of like your pains of birthing your authorship, you know. And now you're just inspiring many with your book. So
Thank
thank you for doing that, and thank you for sharing that with the CDC audience and just the world. So we appreciate that. And just your face is just so I just love the energy that comes from you. That's just you just seem like a woman of peace and joy, and we need
you.
so much more of that in the world, especially moving forward. So
Oh,
all right,
well,
so
thank you.
you're welcome. So let me break it up a little bit before I want to go a little deeper into, just the whole life of being author. I would love to do some fun facts,
Yeah.
just to ask. Obviously, we talked about it being COVID, and you basically said what you did during COVID, but I'm really curious if if by any chance you took the time or you had the time to binge on anything. I think this was like the biggest time where people binged on shows and or reading books or what have you. Was there anything that you could say was like a guilty pleasure that you binged on physically, and then that you may have binged on eating?
Yeah. Oh, well, yes, the eating thing is it's especially when you're in those menopausal years, and that's a burden as it is as far as weight gain and stuff like that, and not being able to go to the gym because I've been going to the YMCA since Avery was a baby, since we brought him home almost, because it was therapy for me. And so it was really challenging for me because now that that was closed, and so I would go walking a lot and hiking, even in the rain and even in the snow, because I have a dog and he's got to walk every day. So that's the one good thing I did, that I started doing more of. I was getting out in nature, which is very therapeutic. And I'm lucky where we live in BC. We've got lots of beautiful mountains and hiking trails to go on. So that was a blessing. But I watched Sons of Anarchy, just
Oh, okay.
finished actually, and oh my goodness, that was something that I don't normally watch those kind of shows, but so I did that, and of course that and Shameless. So that's really all I binged on was those two shows, and other than that, it was just going out for my walks with my kids and doing some projects around the house. So I thought, let's make lemonade out of lemons. Let's try to make the best of this time. And it was interesting because in one of the chapters of my book, I talk about a Facebook post I did where I said, okay, what are some good things you're finding through this pandemic? Is there anything good? What have you found that has been like a silver lining for you? And I loved it. I loved all the positivity that came from people responding to my post and some of the great things that they've learned from it, like as far as learning to teach their kids how to cook because they had the time, and going on little adventures and bringing back board games and just spending more time with the family and not wasting because you couldn't go shopping as much. So you're using
Right.
up you have in the kitchen, and I made some pretty bizarre recipes using up what I had in the fridge. I mean, that might be in my next book. Would be a cookbook, COVID cookbook, because you had to be kind of creative, right? Because we weren't
Right.
able to go to the store as much. So it's just kind of neat to see what other people's takes on the pandemic was, any of the good things that came out, because we know there was a lot of crummy things that came from it.
Yes.
So, but we as people, as humans, we also need to pull the good from it, because in every situation, you can find, if you look hard enough, you can find some good things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But not everybody thinks that way. That's what's so crazy is like, they'd rather see, that whole premise of, seeing the glass half full as
Hmm.
opposed to
Half empty.
half
Hmm.
empty, that type of thing. And
Yes.
we are on the same page when it comes to like that whole thought process.
Right. Exactly. And it's never too late to be able to change a person's paradigm. And that's what I kind of talked about in the book too, is that you can change your mindset. You can step out of that box. It's not easy. I became a big advocate of the law of attraction quite a few years ago,
Hmm.
and started reading Eckhart Tolle's books, becoming more
The good,
spiritual. Eckhart Tolle. He's one of my biggest fans. And so then I thought, okay, conditioning this new conditioning for a new way of thinking, a new way of
hmm
living.
hmm
At my age was challenging because we set our patterns a certain way, but it's never too late to change if we become aware that we can, or if we become aware that we want to. It's all about
absolutely.
a choice in the matter.
Right. And that's a good point because you have to be open. You have to be open for change. You have to be open to accept, the new knowledge that's coming in. I mean, you should never, stop learning. We're constantly learning every day. We're constantly growing. We're constantly
Right,
kind of just mutating into new versions of ourselves. So it just makes sense to,
right, right.
have an open mind to learn more things and not be afraid to change
Yeah,
your way of thinking or change your way of action, because if you want change, you're going to have to make change. And with that,
that's right.
but
Yeah,
right, so with that comes action and the whole mental change. So
right.
that's cool. So okay, so tell us, give us another fun fact when it comes to something that you've never told anybody, or that somebody doesn't know about you. Give us something fun about what makes Kim Kim.
Uh, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I, if I'm feeling it, I have to talk about it. If I'm doing it, I have to talk about it. I am like really an open book. Even if I want to kind of try to hide something, it just comes out. Yeah. So there's nothing I can think of quirky about me, because everybody knows the quirkiness in me. They think I'm kind of silly sometimes because I love laughing and I love having a sense of humor. My favorite, I don't know, maybe people don't know this about me, but if I had to pick a job in the whole world, what I would like to be on or do, it would be the TV show Just for Laugh Gags. I love pranking people.
Oh,
I love that kind of humor, and I always get my husband and my mom on April Fool's Day. I always get them. Always get them. Oh my goodness. I could talk a whole podcast about the jokes I played on them. And it's so funny because every year they say, okay, we're not going to let Kim get us. She's not going to get us this year. And every year I get them. I plan it. I plan it for a long time.
wow, wow. That's pretty funny. And when you bring up the April Fool's thing, it makes me think. I don't know. It's probably like 10 years ago now. My aunt, her house caught on fire on April Fool's Day. So when
Oh,
she was calling everybody, like my mother, to tell them, my mother's like, "Ha ha,
oh
I'm not gonna.
no.
It's a joke. You're not gonna get me." Until she heard the sirens in the background.
Oh dear. You right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
not April Fools, yeah.
not April Fools. Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. So let's get back on a serious note. So let me ask you a question. Being an author, um, you know, a lot of people, well, I don't know a lot of people. Some people may think that that's like a very lucrative um, job, or can be, but in the sense of like when you jumped into it not with the idea of I want to become a published author. You just said I need to write a book because I want to make a difference. I want to help people find out about this. But now that you've got the bug, because obviously you've got the bug because you've written 2 books now that you've got the bug, is it something where you do it for the purpose? Is it still for inspiration, or do you do it for income, or what do you do in addition to
Mhm.
provide the income moving forward? Just for any authors out there that are interested in going that route, like how would you, what type of advice would you give them, like to be able to still maintain their lifestyle in addition
Yeah,
to?
that's a good question, Nicole. Being if you're famous person, you can make a lot of money on your books. But if you're a first time author or second time author, it's challenging to penetrate the market because people don't know who you are. So you have to be very creative with your marketing. And I have got a boyfriend girlfriend duo that are brilliant. They're my marketing team. Like we are a team. We work together. Just this morning, we were out delivering books that we made this little post where I would come and personally deliver books to people and introduce myself and meet them. And we had so much fun this morning. We got lost a few times, but we were laughing. We met some people, and it was just really neat. So you have to be creative with the marketing aspect of it if you want to make an income from it. But you can make an income from doing that. I also work at a medical aesthetic clinic where we treat everything from acne to acne scarring to wrinkles, sun damage, all that kind of thing. And I love that job because I'm a consultant there and I'm there part time. But it's a wonderful thing because I get to help people feel better. Because it's so often with men and women that don't like something about them, whether it's their acne or their aging or what have you. It's all about how you feel, not really how you look, but how you feel. And so that kind of supplements my income, but it's also something I'm passionate about. So I'm really lucky to be able to write a book because not because I needed the money, but because I was inspired to write it, because I had a message to send. And to make a little bit of money is great because I also share proceeds with charities. So I give back to Children's Hospital and that kind of thing. So it's kind of pay it forward idea that is really a win-win for everybody. But yeah, the working as a consultant has been really similar to the, the book about just helping people feel better about themselves.
Okay.
So
So you mentioned about being able to give to charities. Would you mind telling our audience like what would be your favorite charity so that way maybe they also can donate?
yes, we there's so many, there's so many. I want Smile Again to sell millions of copies because then I can expand my charities that I want to give it to. Because otherwise, if I give to everybody that I wanted to, they'd be only getting a few dollars. So I've had to kind of narrow the list. So I'm on the board of directors for a hospice committee. So proceeds are going to there, as well as Children's Hospital because children's hospitals, they everywhere throughout the world, in the United States and Canada and throughout other parts of the world, I'm sure a lot of hospitals rely on donations to get all of the high tech equipment because it's very expensive. And Avery wouldn't have survived if we didn't have that high tech equipment that we had at the hospital to save him, which some other hospitals didn't have. So depending on where he was born, he may not have lived. So that supporting hospitals is really important. And Operation Smile. I love it, these doctors that go across the country to third world countries and help these people with the cleft palates and do all those kind of things. So those are like three of my really kind of main ones. And the Heart and Stroke Foundation is a good one too. They really rely a lot on support from donors as well. And that can make a big difference for the equipment. Like just now, when you go into the mall or to the gym or to any store, they'll have a resuscitator on the wall. So if somebody has a heart attack, they can bring them back because they'll have that equipment. That all comes from people donating money for that.
Okay, yeah. So outside of doing donations for organizations, how do you feel that you are actually making an impact on your surrounding communities?
That's also a good question. I do a lot of social media stuff. I do a lot of local interviews and things like that with our community because I think we all, no matter where we live, we need to spend time in our own backyard, so to speak. And the people that I work with and my marketers that I work with, we go around to different communities. Like, for example, last month when it was Autism Awareness Month, we went and did a video about autism awareness at one of our local government buildings that support autism. So we just highlight what we have in our community that can help people that may need it or that may not know that those resources are out there for them.
Okay. So one of the things that I did, I want to come back to or go back to is that you mentioned that you're on the ground. So you have a healthy combination of social media because you just said you do things for social media, but you don't take away the old school way of the in-person meetups. You
Mm-hmm.
show your face, you let people know this is who I am, kind of like how politicians do. They go around to the towns, hi, I'm running for such and such, and
Right.
you're like, listen, I am an author. This is what I'm doing. Nice to meet you. I want you to experience, my book. And you actually go and you're meeting people from door to door. And I think that that's awesome that you're doing that, and not taking away from like the old school ways, because it's something about that person to person interaction that
Yes.
really makes people to say, you know what, I'm really digging this person. I want to know more, or I would like to support this person. So, those of
Right.
you listening, please don't forget that person to person thing. Like when you have, even with your social media, you're supposed to interact with your followers, not just for them to see you
Right.
take selfies all day, but really to interact. Um,
Yes, that's so important, and that was something that Aaron and Rebecca, my marketing team, helped me with. What they said, like, because they're trying to think of innovative ways to get the book out there, to get people wanting to read it, and so they actually made posters and put them up on bulletin boards, and did mail outs and to put them in mailboxes, in people's mailboxes, saying, it had a picture of me with my book saying, grab your copy of Smile Again. This is what it's about. So doing that old school method was brilliant because we had so much fun doing it, and
right,
we're reaching those people that we wouldn't reach on social media.
right.
So because there's just a small percentage of people that are in our base of friends on social media. So this is a way of expanding that. Just as doing podcasts and stuff, because even though we're meeting virtually, we still get it. Still feels like one on one.
Right. And what it does is it creates an experience. And a lot of people will remember that more than, swiping. You create, they were like, oh, I remember that conversation, or I remember the dress or the outfit she had
Yeah,
on. It was just really fascinating. Like it
yeah.
just really it's an extra step into fulfilling your dream and your purpose.
Mm.
So thanks for being examples of that, because not everyone does that. And people are always like, oh, it's hard to grow, it's hard to do the no, you just have to, like you said, think of other ways, innovative ways to really expand and get your message. And then the other thing about that is you're not just out there me. What you do in addition to all the selfless service that you're doing, in addition to, also helps to bring one that positive energy towards you that allows people to be attracted to you, but it also shows that you're not just for self. You really truly are here to really change lives, to really inspire and make a difference. So
Yeah, it feels good to have purpose. It feels good to give back. So, some people say it's kind of a selfish thing giving back because it makes you feel better to be able to help somebody. So it's a win-win situation in that respect because it's a feeling of reward, and it just gives me some purpose because I figure why things happen to us that happen to us. Is there reasons, so be able to take that what happened to me and turn it around to help others, I think is more what the world needs to do. It's about service, giving service,
right.
and you allowing me and people like me on your podcast to be able to spread the message is most wonderful, and I'm so grateful that you wanted to have me on that because you're giving a lot of people the platform to share their message how to be able to help others. So that's so what you're doing is also very much giving back and giving people an opportunity to show what they can offer.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Ah, it's so great.
So, okay, so you have to tell me, like, when you're following your dream, not everybody understands your dream, because in truth, it's your dream, it's your path, it's your passion. It's not meant for other people. But if you look back, like from the beginning, who would you say was your biggest supporter then, and who's your biggest supporter now?
I'm lucky. I'm fortunate to have a few. My mom taught me at a very early age that there's no such thing as can't. And so she instilled that in me, which was great because I think a lot of us don't move forward or don't try things because we just don't think we can, or we have fear. And the first day of kindergarten, because I grew up in a farm, rural area, didn't have many houses or friends around me. So the first day of kindergarten, I didn't want to go in. I still remember it. I'm like, I can't go in. I can't go in. I don't want to go in. I was petrified. I can't do it. I can't do it. And my mom said, there's no such thing as can't. And it just, I remember that, and it just stuck with me. And so whenever I feel I can't do something, I think about that, and I think, oh, my mom, there's no such thing as can't. And so that helped me tremendously to push through fear and to try things that I didn't think I could. She's going to be 80 this year, and she still lives on a half acre, has a big, huge garden, and her motto is "move it or lose it." So she's probably my biggest supporter. My dad always was, but unfortunately he was 59 when he passed, and but he was also my biggest, and just a selfless person that would give the shirt off his back for anybody. So thankfully, my parents kind of got their genes of what how they feel. They passed that on to me, and my husband and my kids, they're back me 110%. Uh, they just let me have free will to do what I want to do, and they're always are proud of me for doing that. So I think that's having that network of support from more than one person has kind of helped me be able to think that the sky's the limit.
That's awesome. So you're a very optimistic person. So I have to ask, like, has there been a time where you were in this dark place, or you were in this, like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I give up. I'm not going to write. I'm not going to put this out there. Have you been in that type of situation? And if so, how did you get yourself out of it?
Yeah, I think we all do. Being human, we have good days and bad days, and then especially when we're going through something like COVID, it particularly is challenging for many people. Most people, if not all, in some sense, have had more bad days than they used to have in previous times. So it gets to everybody, and I think the biggest thing is to not beat up on yourself. One of the things that I've learned is sometimes we're too hard on ourselves. Allow ourselves to say, you know what, I'm not having a good day today. Warn people, warn your coworkers, warn your family. Tell them, look, I'm having a bad day here. Help me out. It's like I'm just not feeling good. I'm tired of this COVID. I'm tired of wearing a mask. I'm tired of breaking out with acne from this darn mask that we have to wear. Those kind of things. They do get to you, and we need to acknowledge it, and then we can, once we acknowledge it and digest it, we can kind of let it go, and then we say the next day, oh, what's a bit of acne, like it's gonna go
Mm.
away, whereas the day before, oh my god, what's happening, so it's just allowing it to happen, and let it digest, and then let it go. So
Yeah.
that's what I do, and I tell people to do, that call on me for advice about things like that, because yeah, I'm kind of known as being Mrs. Optimism. So people do, call on me for that, and I love it. I love to be able to show them how I've gotten through it, and that's what I think a lot of people find in Smile Again as well.
Wow. Okay. So, okay. So keeping with that, I'm glad that you gave us an example of, that a lot of people do go through those moments, because sometimes people feel like they're alone in that they're the only person going through those sad moments and are not able to kind of get over that hump. But
Yeah.
there is a possibility. And with you persevering, you had the opportunity to do a TED talk. Tell us about that, because you brushed over that like it was like nothing. That's a big accomplishment. So tell us about that, how it even came about, how you got to do it, and how was the experience?
Oh, sure. Well, I, I'm afraid of public speaking. I think most of us are. We don't like public speaking, and but I wanted to share my message, and TED is a great platform to share your message. And but I was kind of petrified to do it. And I remember Avery saying to me, he's like, "Well, Mom, why do you want to do it if you're so scared of it, if it so petrifies you so much?" And I thought, yeah, that's a good question. But then I realized that my message was more powerful than my fear. So I applied for the TED Talk, and I think it's hard to get accepted to be a TED Talker. You've got to have a really good premise and a really good audition to talk. And thankfully, I won the audience favorite. The judges didn't pick me, but the audience did, and I thought, well, that's fine because there's way more people in the audience than there is judges. So I was happy to get chosen by from the audience, and uh, then because I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to share my message, and so the theme that year for the TED Talk was future shapers, and I thought, well, how can I take my story? My story is not about future shaping because it's kind of I'm thinking technology, what we're doing to shape our future. How does my story shape the future? And
Mm.
then I thought and thought and thought, and I thought, you know what? Like it's my story, it's future shaping because I'm talking about experiences that change us, experiences that could break some people, but how we can spin it around and how we can shape our future from our past.
Mm.
And I thought of that kind of a spin, and also wanted to tie in how mentors, like we need our mentors. We're losing our mentors. Yeah, social media is great in a lot of ways. We can, especially with COVID, because we can Zoom and meet like this, and now we're opening up to that whole world of meeting people virtually much more prominent. But at the same time, we're becoming more isolated in our homes, even before COVID because I did my TED Talk in 2017, so a couple of years before COVID, and I talked about how we may have 500 or 1,000 friends on Facebook, but we're more lonely than ever because
Yeah.
we're losing touch of our mentors, our stories from our grandparents, our great uncles and aunts and things like that. We're losing that touch because those mentors help shape us. Because my grandma, I talk about my grandma in my TED Talk, how she lost her leg when she was really young. Two cars were drag racing and they crashed into her and
Oh,
each other.
wow.
Yes, and they couldn't find her under the wreckage except for they found a little piece of her dress was sticking out. So when they finally got to her, she was bleeding out, and the ambulance took her away. But they said that she wasn't going to make it because she
Mm.
had lost too much blood, and they couldn't stop the bleeding. But it was a miracle. She formed a blood clot in her leg, and so they amputated her leg, but she lived. And
Wow.
she went on to inspire so many people who would go through accidents or lose limbs or have health problems. And I saw that. I saw this mentor, and she would say, I would think, how come she's so happy all the time? She's got one leg, and yet she's singing and happy and doing all this stuff. I was a teenager, and she was, because she had lost it when her kids were very young. So she
Mm.
had, by the time I came around, she was quite used to having one leg and was doing a lot of good things from that. But, she said to me, Kimmy, we don't appreciate our legs. We don't look down and think, thank you, legs, for being there until one day one's gone.
Right.
And I thought, oh my goodness, we take things for granted. We take our health for granted. And so through her, seeing what she did to all these people, she would bake goods for poor people that had no money and bring them birthday cakes for the children because they couldn't afford one. And I just saw this. I thought what this person did with her life with after losing her leg. made me think that, anything was possible. So without her influence, without her being my mentor, I don't know if I would have had that tenacity in me to
Mm.
see that I could do it. So I wanted to talk to people about to keep those connections, because what we learn from our elders, what we learn from our mentors, we can carry on and transfer that into our own life, and pass that also to our kids.
Right.
So it's just that balance. It's finding the balance of technology, social media with human interaction, personal interaction.
Right. And I think she was a great example too of how to live and be, have the selfless service, and also not allowing what has happened to be an overcast on your life. And I think that's probably where you got where your optimism, because even though that happened to her, she still kept a positive attitude. She kept moving forward, and she kept doing for others. And when you think about people out, now, I don't think that it's a matter of there not being mentors. I just think they're the wrong type of mentors that are being taken on, that
Mm-hmm.
people are using the wrong people as an example. Um, it's a very me culture. So what they're learning from that is selfishness,
Yeah.
and about how to step on the other guy to get to the top.
Yes,
So
right.
that's the shift that it is now. And then to rely on technology. We're not relying on our brains and common sense.
Yeah.
We're relying on what is being fed to us, what's being told to us, instead of saying, you
Mhm.
know what, that doesn't sound right. Let me research on my own. Let's look at history and what it says. So it's really about somewhere in there, there's got to be like this big boom, so that there can be a shift and we can get back to basics. And that's kind of like where I feel like COVID was a reset for a lot of people, because we had to get back to basics, and it was like,
Mhm.
oh wait, oh, I don't have this security that I thought. Oh wait,
Yes.
there was so many, like, now I have time on my hands. Oh, I actually don't like this man that I'm living with, like, you had
Right.
no choice but to be like,
Yes.
wait, I gotta
It was.
stop and smell the roses.
Yes. Yes. A wake up call for sure for a
For
lot
a
of
lot of
people.
people, yes.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and that's, like you, Nicole, kind of like me that way. We, try to we find the good things that can come out of it. And I talked in one of the chapters of Somaliland. I did some research about the pandemic in 1918, and about how that affected people and what they did, and and what they did following the pandemic, and how it had a positive impact in some ways of how people reacted. So it's kind of neat to see what they did, and I see some of that happening now. That same thing that happened from the 19 pandemic. Some of the good things, like for example, people not wasting food, things like that, and helping the neighbor more, helping out our neighbors, getting back to that personal relationships again. Um,
Right, right.
it's neat to see some of the good things that can come from it. So when you said reset, I was like, ah, yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Okay, so I did not get rid of our fire time, our lightning rounds, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and you just, answer what comes to mind. So what do you feel has been the best advice that you've ever received?
That I ever received. It would probably be what my mom said to me back when I was 5, that there's no such thing as can't.
Yeah.
Because I think too many people don't do something because they hold back on things because they think they can't do it. They put limitations on themselves.
Yeah.
We of what our expectations are, what we can do. So I think when I realized that I had a choice in how I proceed. It made me realize that it's just a mindset, and so I think that made me give me courage to feel like I can. So that would probably be one of the best pieces of advice. Uh, Close to that. would be recently, well, a few years back when I read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now,
Yeah.
and learning to be in the present is so important for our mental health, physical health, everything, because we spend too much time worrying about what happened yesterday when we can't change it, or
Right.
what's going to happen tomorrow, and that we lose sight of just being here now, because this moment is all we have. So, learning the advice from Eckhart to live more in the present. So now when I go on my walks, I don't think about, oh, what I've got to do later today or tomorrow, or what I did yesterday I could have done differently. I just take note to listen to the birds singing and the leaves rustling and the sound of the leaves and the earth beneath my feet, and just stay in that moment. Well, I'm telling you, that can change your whole day. You can
Oh
start
yeah.
off on your walk going, oh, crummy day, this, that, oh, it's yucky out. And then you become present in the now. Your whole outlook and attitude changes, and the way you look in the mirror changes. You
Yeah.
actually, it almost like physically changes your look.
Yeah.
So,
It actually lightens you a little bit because I was talking to my daughter the other day. We were in the car, and a lot of times we have our music on and we're singing and we're dancing.
yeah.
And this particular time I was like, all right, music off. And I said, sometimes I just like to drive in silence because then I'm there present in my thoughts. I'm also observing what's around me, seeing the beauty of the creation that's around me,
Mhm.
and seeing my surroundings because how many of us drive around the corner and get lost. I know my mother used to do that all the time. She would drive around the corner and she'd be like, where am I? And it's
Yeah.
all because a lot of times you're fixated on where you're going, but you don't really think about, like, there's landmarks here to tell me, like, hey, I know this is
Yeah.
right here down the street. And now
Yeah.
so more because we're always looking at our GPS on the phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're not really paying attention. So I know a lot of times when I've used my GPS, I make it my business to also look around me. So if I'm
Mm.
ever in this particular place again, okay, I know this is familiar, I know where I am. And that
Right.
again goes to, you got to live in the present moment and not just be kind of like on your phone and just lost. So
Exactly.
thank
Oh,
you.
sorry, that's my dog.
That's okay.
Here's my rescue dog. Murphy, come here. I'll show you. He's so cute. Come here, Murphy. Say hi to Nicole.
Hello. He looks like a little man.
Doesn't he?
Yes, he does. With the mustache.
I know. People say he looks like he's kind of human. He's got like human eyes.
Yeah, he does. He looks like a little man. That's so funny.
He was a rescue. He's a rescue. So he was found on the streets in LA. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
He's handsome.
So yeah, sorry about that. My
No,
daughter just
that's
came
okay.
home, so
That's
he was
okay.
he was being a little guard dog.
That's okay. So please tell our audience, like, can you share a personal habit that contributes to your daily success?
Yeah, that's there's a few things, but one of the things that I think helps me is I say my little affirmations every day, and I thank the universe and all my guides for guiding me to the right people, guiding me the right things to say, and I ask for that to continue that. So I ask for those little affirmations, and I always say thank you, and I hope to continue being grateful and appreciative, because you like attracts like. You get more of what you've already got. So if you keep in that momentum of gratitude and appreciation, more will come. So I always want to say, I say thank you to the universe for that, and I always say, just be proud. Even if you make a mistake, just be proud knowing that you did the best that you can. Because I think when we beat up on ourselves too much, it inhibits us and limits us as to what we can do. So just to be proud knowing that you're doing the best that you can. You
Wow.
we make mistakes, and that's okay. We're human. Don't let it spiral you. Like, because a lot of times it's like, when you fall off your diet, then one meal, then you think, oh, well, I'm screwed up. I'll start again next month.
Right.
So we need to allow ourselves to make mistakes and be okay with it, because we know that we did the best we can. So
Right.
I think that has really helped me, let things go and be okay with it, because too often if we have a bad day or we make an error or we screw up, we're too hard on ourselves, and that
Yeah.
affects our self-esteem and our negativity as to limiting our abilities. So
Right.
that would probably be what I think has carried me uh, to a good spot where I'm not so worried what other people think, and that other what other people think of me is, what's that saying? What other people think
It's
of
none of your
me,
business.
it's not even right. And so, because I always used to worry about what other people think, and now I'm like, no, I can't control their thoughts or what they think, and
Right.
and that's another really good piece of advice is to not concern yourselves with things you can't change.
Right. Exactly.
Why
Exactly.
spend that negative energy? I try to tell some people like that, like my mom, who, when she talks about a certain politician and her blood pressure rises and she tries to solve the world's, problems. And I'm like, don't, you're letting it take over that negativity. You can't change it. So don't
Right.
talk about it. Like, don't spend your energy on things you cannot change or do
Right.
anything about. That will save monumental time of energy to focus on the good things you can do.
Right. Exactly. And so my next question, and I probably already know the answer because you've mentioned it a couple of times, is what book would you recommend to the Commit to Change audience and why?
Okay, well, other than my book, of course, I would say Smile Again, but no. Yeah, Eckhart Tolle is The Power of Now or A New Earth are two of my favorite books. But the person has to be ready for that because when I first bought Eckhart's book many years ago, and because I heard about this Eckhart Tolle fella and how great he was, and so I'm going to get one of his books. Well, I started reading it. It was like Greek to me. I'm rereading each paragraph, each sentence, and I'm like, I don't know what's a pain body. What's it? What? It was too hard to read, and so I just put it away in the cupboard. And many years later, I stumbled across it, and I thought, hmm, I remember this book, and it frustrated me because I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. But I had evolved since then. I had
Right.
kind of,
Right.
become a law of attraction fan and more well versed. So I picked up the book and started reading it. Well, I just I glazed through it so fast. I just hung on every word. I loved every bit of piece of advice he offered. So it was very interesting because all those years before, yeah, no, same, different, completely different. So it's one of those things that you have to be ready for. So
Right.
yeah, but another book that I really like is the Chicken Soup for the Soul series because
Yes.
that's kind of what Smile Again is about. I like things that kind of give you ideas to how to live happier because who doesn't want to live happier and live with more abundance
Right. Right.
and so I'm a big nonfiction reader. I don't read a lot of fiction. I just I like to find nonfiction books that kind of help me grow a little bit and
Right.
help uplift me because
Yes.
and maybe that's why I'm positive. More I don't know because I love those books that kind of make you go, aha, that's so I can see things differently.
Right. And that's important too. Whatever you bring in, whether it's the superfoods or watching certain things that are enlightening, reading things that are enlightening, all of that is helpful in your disposition from day to day. And not everybody understands that. It's like certain musics can change your mood or things that you watch, you could get angry. And it's like
Hmm.
you gotta be mindful of what that you're taking in every day from every aspect, including like people, like friends. If you have negative friends that
Hmm.
could drain you. So you always have to eliminate that. So
So true. Hmm.
so if you found out that you have 1 hour left to live, but you were given the opportunity to share one final message, what would it be?
To not worry about where you're going.
Okay. That's a good message.
Just
That's a good
because
message.
you don't have a lot of time left, and you don't want to worry about where you're going. When I go on my walks every day, one of my paths is through a graveyard,
Mm.
and I see, a lot of dead people there. And I think one of those days that's gonna be me, because we actually have a family plot up there. And I don't worry too much about that because I just know the universe has my back, and our energy can never die.
Right.
It's just kind of like a flower. We can um, cut our flowers and put them in a vase, and they look so pretty, but they're it's just their outer carcass.
Right.
The soul of the flower lives on, so you cannot kill energy. So
Right.
I try not to worry about that, about things that we can't change.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, like I've said to my family and friends, and they don't understand. I say, once I stop breathing, like I will still go on. This vessel of mine will wither away. So you can put me in a wheelbarrow and drop me off over the slough. I don't care because that's just the carcass that carries me.
Right.
So yeah,
Right. The house to your soul.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you have any books, any upcoming books, like anything else coming in, anything in the works?
Oh, one day, yes, one day. So I think for now, for at least the next 6 months, we're just going to be focusing on Smile again and getting that out to as many people as ever. But my social media team is already planting seeds for my next book, and I'm like, oh well, yes, so it probably will happen, but not sure of when or where that is.
Not yet.
Just yeah, not yet. So it's great to be able to use Smile Again as a platform to work because I'm going to be, we just made an audiobook. So we just recorded an audiobook for Smile Again, which will be available
Nice.
to download. So a lot of people are listening to the iTunes and stuff now and through
Right.
iPods and stuff. So we've done that. So that'll be available in a few weeks on Amazon. And
Did you
so look
record it? Was it your
yeah,
voice?
yeah.
Yay.
It was interesting because Aaron said, we want you to record it because you were the one that wrote the book. And so I'm like, yes, sure. And so every weekend I would go in his studio and read a few chapters. And it was so interesting because on some of the chapters got me emotional and you could hear in my voice. And I'm like, oh, I need to retape that. And Aaron's like, no, you want that emotion coming
Yes.
through
Yes.
of the paper. So it's way more powerful on an
Yes, it is.
audiobook than it is reading the words because you can sense the passion that I'm writing about when you read the words, but it's not the same as hearing the passion
Yes.
from the person who wrote the book. So very, very powerful stuff.
Yes.
And I'm opening up an account on Patreon, so I'm going to be able to have people to subscribe for consulting. So I'm going to be doing like aesthetic and personal development consulting.
Okay, perfect. And you know what?
Yeah,
That's a nice segue into the next thing is please tell our audience where they can find you.
sure, that would be great. So I'm on social media on Instagram at Kim Gemmell, KIMGEMMELL, and Facebook, Kim Gemmell Author. And my website is kimgemmell.com. So on the social media channels or on my website, you can learn a little bit more information about how you can get a copy of my book. Because I can actually, you can get my book on Amazon as well, but you have to pay like a large delivery fee. So I'm taking personal orders. So if people want to go to my social media sites and message me, I can mail out them a book, a signed copy, where next to nothing for shipping costs. So I would prefer people to do that because it would save them some money for sure.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that tip with us.
Yeah,
And before I let you go, I do want you to please share a personal quote to our audience.
a personal quote, like one of my favorite quotes.
Either one of your favorite quotes or something that you always say as your own quote.
Well, there's a there's a few that I like, which Oprah Winfrey's was one that coined "Turn your wounds into wisdom."
Mm,
I think that's one of my favorites because we all are going to have adversity in our life. We're all going to have some challenging times. But like what I said earlier, it's what we do with it that can make all the difference. And Mahatma Gandhi, his quote, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." I think is huge, because what he's accomplished in life is just one person, what he can do. Because I think we believe that we're just one person and we can't make an impact or a difference. And that's not true, because it's pay it forward. You do one good thing, it's a domino effect. So I think that we need to realize that we have more power than we think, and we have more influence than we think.
Absolutely. So our time here has come to an end. Kim, thank you so much for being a guest on the CDC podcast. We really enjoyed the information that you provided with us, and your presence has just been illuminating.
Oh
So,
my goodness. Well, thank you, Nicole. And sorry to hear it's coming to an end. I could chat with you all day,
yes,
but
we could.
maybe we will play catch up again in the future to keep updates and see how things are going, because I always enjoyed chatting with you. You're just a bright light, and I think you bring out you make it easy for me to bring out the best in me. And I love that about you. You've got a gift about that when you talk to people. So it's precious.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you know now that you are part of the Self Lift Network. So I hope you will grace us with your presence again. But in the meantime, till next time, and we'll say goodbye to our audience. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.